Hey, sixth grade, happy Monday. It is our third week out of school, and we're going to do something major this week. Guys, by Thursday, we are going to be finished reading One Crazy Summer. I cannot believe it, but it's happening, so I'm really excited. Today, we're going to read together the chapter called The Third Thing, and it's going to start on page 192. You're going to get to read a chapter every day this week, and then on Thursday, we are going to have all of the questions that we've been wondering answered. Please go ahead and grab your book. Open up to page 192. Who would have thought 20 flyers could have brought more than 1,000 people to the park? Talk about a grand Negro, well, a grand black spectacle. People simply came, filling up every inch of green in the park. Some even climbed oak trees and perched in branches for a good spot. Everywhere you turned, there were college students in t-shirts, signing people up for sickle cell anemia testing and voter registration. Black Panthers from around the country, in sky blue t-shirts with pictures of Black Panthers on them, stood tall, patrolling the park. Policemen also stood tall, holding on to their wooden clubs. And yet I wasn't afraid. I was excited. You see, Sister Mukambu said, waving her bangled arm like a wand over the hundreds of people, maybe 1,000. I feel ashamed of the pride that I take in ironing a crease extra sharp. Ironing a sharp crease is a job well done. Bringing people to this rally was magic that you had soaring above trees. It was certainly worth marching up to the no-sayers. In my mind, all these people came to the rally because our summer camp helped to spread the word. The idea of radio announcements, the Black Panther newspaper, and the word of mouth hadn't entered my mind. If only Cecile could see what we had done, and Pa, and Big Ma. They put the young people's presentations on first, before all of the speeches and the musicians and the adult poets. Our play was awkward, with Sister Pat following us around with a microphone, but we continued on as if we'd rehearsed it that way. The first time Janice Ankton heard her voice boom out over all those loudspeakers, she jumped back. Soon she overcame her amplified voice and proved a bigger ham than Vanetta on her showiest and crowiest days. Janice brandished her silver cap gun at us and scared runaway slaves more than Sister Pat's script had called for. All I knew was that the crowd liked it, and that was enough for Harriet Tubman, who proclaimed, "Either you want to be free or you want to be scared slaves." She was supposed to have said, "I haven't lost a passenger yet." The crowd went crazy, and Janice soaked it up. Eunice kicked her sister, the way I sometimes had to put Vanetta in her place, and it worked. Janice stopped waving her silver cap shooter at us and went on with the play as Sister Pat had written it. After Harriet Tubman freed the slaves, Hirohoto and the boys showed off their karate kicks, chops, and jujitsu moves. Eunice, Janice, and Beatrice changed into their matching African print head wraps and dresses sewn by their mother. I was certain that Vanetta would be eaten up with jealousy after Janice's loud dramatic performance was soon to be followed with her dancing in that cute matching outfit. Instead, Vanetta had been awfully quiet while we waited for our turn to go on stage. I feared the worst with Vanetta's sunken mood. This had happened just before the tip-top-tap disaster. A quiet Vanetta was a scared Vanetta. That meant I would have to dance her part, or in this case, say her part if her eyes bugged out and her mouth didn't open. Then, afterward, I'd have to say, there, to her for the next 2 weeks. "Vanetta, are you ready?" She nodded. If I didn't make her talk, we were doomed. "What's that, Vanetta?" Another nod. Now, I was mad. Mad because this was the same Vanetta who had stubbornly wanted to sing Dry Your Eyes before all of these people. This was the same Vanetta who had recited We Real Cool until it drove Cecile into a cussing fit. This was Vanetta who had said, "We should do this poem," and as usual, I would have to go out there and finish the mess that Vanetta had started. "Vanetta, don't make me kick you." "Better not," she said. Good. At least her mouth opened and 2 words came out. "I'm ready, for your information." "I'm ready," Fern piped up. I'm ready like Freddie. I'm ready, steady. I know a boy in my class named Eddie Larson, but Larson doesn't go with ready and steady. And then she barked, arf, arf. Vanetta and I looked at each other and then at Fern. Vanetta said, Fern, what are you talking about? Fern smiled and sang, I saw a something. Then she clapped it out like we were still on the East Bay bus. The karate boys had run off the platform while the crowd still cheered. I hadn't been paying attention because I was worried about Vanetta. Then Hirohoto ran over and I said, that was really neat. Sister Pat pushed us onto the stage and we marched out before all those people. Vanetta was supposed to introduce us and say the name of our poem and that our mother wrote it, but I could see her eyes growing big and her face ashen. I whispered the two things that I knew were going to help get her going. I said, Hirohoto's watching and Janice hopes you trip. Vanetta's face ripened into a peach. She grabbed the microphone pole like Diana Ross, stepped out in front of us, her supremes, and then cleared her throat. I birthed a black nation by our mother, Inzilla, the black poet. All the power to all the people. The crowd roared and waved their fists. Maybe they carried on because she was just a little girl making big sounds. Maybe they cheered for Inzilla, who was now a known political prisoner. To Vanetta, they cheered for her, and she was ready. She was set to show and crow. Vanetta. I birthed a black nation. From my womb, black creation, spilled forth to be stolen, shackled, dispersed. Me. I've dispatched black warriors, raged against unjust barriers, to find the black and strong had fallen, divided, deceived, overcome. Fern. Black oceans separate us. Tortured cries, songs of black greatness still echo in my canal. Vanetta, Fern, and me. Hear the reverberation of a stolen black nation, forever lost to foreign shores where thieves do not atone, and Mother Africa cannot be consoled. All that was missing was Cecile to see and hear us recite her poem. I'm sure she wouldn't have appreciated Vanetta sprinkling black into her poem like pepper, but the crowd loved it, and we went along, following Vanetta's lead, throwing the word black as she had. Following each other was easy. We'd been doing it for as long as we could talk. Saying Cecile's words one after another felt like we were bringing her into our conversation instead of turning our voices on her, like we had. When we finished, we were supposed to exit the platform. Me first, Vanetta second, and Fern last. We'd walk off the stage and over to the wing. That was what I was certain we had done. Then I turned around, and I saw Fern still standing in the center of the stage. I went to get her, but Sister Pat was already walking out. Fern wouldn't leave. She said something to Sister Pat, who nodded and adjusted the microphone down to Fern's mouth. And then she left Fern on the stage alone. The crowd quieted and waited, but Fern stood without a word. Again, I went to get little Fern, but Sister Mukambu grabbed my shoulder. Wait, Delphine. Let her. Sister Mukambu had no idea how hard it was for me to watch my baby sister stand alone before all of those people. They could laugh at her, shout at her to get off the stage, or boo her into tears. But Fern balled up her fists, banged them at her sides, and then she spoke. My mother calls me little girl, but this is a poem by Fern Gaither, not little girl. This is a poem for Crazy Kelvin. It's called A Pat on the Back for a Good Puppy. She cleared her throat. You guys are not going to believe this. I'm sorry. I wish I could see your faces. So bad right now. Crazy Kelvin says off the pig. Crazy Kelvin slaps everyone 5. The policeman pats Crazy Kelvin on the back. The policeman says, good puppy. Crazy Kelvin says, arf, 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 arf. Because I saw the policeman pat your back, Crazy Kelvin. Surely did. 2 things happened just then. Really, 3 things. First, the crowd went wild for Fern Gaither. Janice Angton folded her arms and told Eunice she didn't want to go on stage and dance after Fern had grabbed up all the applause. Second, Crazy Kelvin backed away. I think he was searching for the best way to get out of the park, but he was surrounded by Black Panthers. They knew what Fern had said, even though it took Vanetta and me a little longer to really understand what Fern had said and seen, and what it meant. Luckily for Crazy Kelvin, there were enough policemen to step in and get him out of the park. It's funny about Crazy Kelvin. If he hadn't gone on and on about racist pigs, Fern would have never asked herself, "What's wrong with this picture?" I'm sure it had more to do with Miss Pattycake and him telling her who she could love. I'm sure it had to do more with him telling her who she was. Fern had Crazy Kelvin in her sights, and she got him with his own words. "What's wrong with this picture?" There was a third thing that happened just then, only I didn't know it at the time. Cecile told me it in a letter a month later. And that third thing was, a poet had been born. It wasn't Longfellow, Cecile had written, but it was a running start. When they took their bus to San Francisco and Fern started acting weird, it was because she had seen Crazy Kelvin going to the cops as an informant and telling them different things, including most likely to go get Anzilla and that the Panthers would be at her house. He was a police informant. And Fern caught it, and she called him out in front of everyone. The second little thing that happened there was the third thing. The third thing was, first, we learned that Cecile continues and writes Delphine letters months later when she's back in New York. And second, that she's determined that Fern is now going to be a little baby poet. Guys. Yeah, Crazy Kelvin. Who would have known? Your job right now is to go over to your comprehension questions, either in your binder or on the Google Classroom, and work on the ones for this chapter. I do want you to know that on Friday and next week on Monday and Tuesday, I'm going to give you some extra time to work on catch up for those, but try to really keep up with this work because it's important to your future. It's not just for me and just for a grade, it's for your beautiful brains. When you're done, go ahead and click the vocab video, and I'm going to teach you 10 of our new vocab words today. Bye, 6th grade. See you later.